Recently, research has shown that fish populations are not waiting for climate change to make their habitat impossible for them to live. They're moving. That's right. Fish all over the globe are migrating to cooler climates. In a process that's been taking place for decades now, fish are sorting themselves out and leaving areas that no longer sustain their quality of life, their ability to reproduce and to thrive. They've steadily been moving to areas where the effects of climate change are not so pronounced. Isn't it interesting that fish, without fancy scientific instrumentation or computer analysis, have reacted to the facts in the sea and moved to where they can function, where they can live, and where they can, at least for the time being, escape the impacts of climate change. They're also escaping from people who depend on them in their previous habitat to fish. But that's another story on the consequences of climate change and global warming. Isn't it time that the political process starts responding in ways that even fish can? One would hope. But instead, today on the floor of the House, we're going to return to debate the Keystone pipeline that would carry oil extracted from Canada's tar sands to the U.S. Gulf and short-circuit the presidential review. Given the potential negative environmental impacts, the repeated efforts by some to rush the environmental and public safety review process, the overwhelming number of comments and concerns received from the public, and the recent news about the atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide that have reached 400 parts per million, an amount not seen in at least 3 million years, I'm concerned that this sideshow over the Keystone pipeline will make our climate problem worse rather than better, and poison the ability to make progress in the future. The simple fact is that this pipeline would facilitate the exploitation of one of the dirtiest sources of energy, tar sands oil, that poses public safety and health risks. In addition to possible worsening of the effects of global climate change, there are serious questions that remain about pipeline safety, spill prevention, and protecting the public from potential health impacts in the wake of the spills that are inevitable. Tar sand developers are amazingly exempt from paying into the Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, making American taxpayers liable for the cost of any spills from the Canadian tar sands oil. This places, I think, an unacceptable and unnecessary risk on American taxpayers, one that we can ill afford to assume today. Now, this will be the 7th time that we voted and that I will vote against proposals to streamline the building of the Keystone pipeline, as some members of the House continually, repeatedly attempt to circumvent the legislative process and rush its proposal. The only positive of this project is creating several thousand temporary construction jobs and a few dozen permanent. That's no reason to short-circuit the review required by law. The potential environmental harm done by the pipeline, both from the threat of oil spills to the precious aquifer that it will be passing over, and because tar sands emit 3 times more global warming pollution than conventional oil, has led me to the conclusion that I hope President Obama does not approve the pipeline. There are many things we should be doing to rebuild and renew America and create millions of jobs, not a few thousand temporary construction jobs. We ought to be looking at different approaches to revenue and dealing with carbon pollution. For instance, we are discussing a draft that would potentially tax carbon emissions, dealing directly with the problem, help provide revenues to lower taxes and pay for what America needs, and to deal with emerging technologies and level the playing field for technologies of the future.